Right then, here we go. So, starting off with the stuff that we did last week then. So, foot rolling, spiky ball. Can't do enough of that, which is fine. I'm not going to demonstrate rolling your foot on a spiky ball. I'm sure you can remember how to do that. So, rolling the feet on a spiky ball. And then we did quite a lot of sort of playing with bridges. They are really useful, especially when combined with the pelvic floor. So you've got your diaphragmatic breathing or your belly breathing to do, which is fine. But then as you start to move into movement, start to think about opening the rib cage. So you're trying to breathe into the ribs. And it still might not be great at the moment. This is Sparrow, by the way. She's the furry apprentice. She likes to get involved on videos. So your rib cage might not feel like it's expanding very much, but it's about building awareness. You know, the more you think about it, the more you start to try, eventually your brain will reconnect with those muscles. Right, so thinking about bridges then, we started off just with your basic, so such a beast, basic bridge, heels comfortably close to your bottom, feet parallel, and finding the base of the big toe. So the base of the big toe is going to connect you into your inner thighs. So when you lift, it doesn't want to look like this. So my chest is close to my chin, rib cage is poking out, and my bottom is dangling. This is me lifting with my lower back, right? So if I get my arms out of the way. So we talked about dropping the ribs, but keeping the hips lifted. So you one long line from shoulder through hip, through knee. And that should be more of a challenge to even hold it there. As opposed to being in this position. And what you said was, once you got it right, you felt like it moved from your lower back to your glutes, right? So that's what you're looking for. You want to hook the knees towards each other. They're not coming into touch, but that'll give you that firing up of the inner thigh muscles as well. All right, so that's your basic bridge. You want to try and keep your glutes engaged on the way back down. It's not that that's a right or wrong way to do that, it's just a test. Can you keep them clenched on the way down? Same again, we lift into that long ski slope position and then keeping the glutes engaged as we come down, just to see if you can. Like I say, it's not right or wrong, it's a case of do you have control over them, and you might find that you've got that sort of jerky movement again, so you try to keep it smooth, so up and down. Combining this with the breath, because I know you like to hold your breath, for me I would always inhale on the way up and exhale on the way down, and then you can reverse, inhale on the way down, so exhale on the way up, so an inhale here, exhale on the way up, inhale on the way down. So it doesn't matter per se, you want to find a position or a breath that works for you in terms of being able to control your pelvic floor. So if coming up is harder work, then you want to control your pelvic floor there and exhale. If going down is harder work, then that's where you want to control your breath on the exhale and control your pelvic floor at the same time. So I hope that makes sense. So we're lifting and lowering, so that's all fine. All right, so however many of those, I'll talk about how many in a moment, they would walk the feet away slightly. So the further the feet away are, the more challenging it gets in certain positions. So same thing again, lifting the hips up, and still with the feet flat to start with, still with the base of the big toe down, still with the sense of the knees hugging towards each other, and control it down. Lifting on either an inhale or an exhale, and then controlling it down to the floor. Same again. I'm only going to do 3 or 4 of these just to give you an idea, and then we're going to walk the feet out a little bit further and get under the cat, who will probably bite me at this point. Your feet might be down, or you might want to come onto your heels at this point. So from memory, the last time we did this, you had a tendency to push away with the feet. See if you can feel like you're pulling towards you with the feet, which will fire up the hamstrings. The backs of the thighs will engage. And you can add a little bit of weight. If you've got a spare cat knocking about, you can add a little bit of weight over the pelvis. That makes it more of a challenge. And you can hold or lift and lower. So lifting and lowering is great. We like that. And you can lift and hold, which makes it more of an endurance exercise. So you've got options. And then lower. And then we're going to go as far out as we can, while still keeping a bend in the leg. And this time the feet and knees come together. The feet are pulling back towards you, or pointing the toes up to the ceiling. And you lift it from there. And as you can see, it's not a very big lift. It's a lot harder. Hamstrings and glutes have to work. You want to really hug the inner thighs together. So I'm squeezing the inner thighs and releasing back down, and that's kind of like your last one, as it were. Really? So when it comes to numbers, when it comes to body weight numbers, I'm a big believer in working to failure, and by failure I don't mean you can't do another one and you're passing out on the floor. I simply mean that you get to the point where you know that the next one is going to be, you're not going to have great form, you might have just one left in the tank, but you know it's just not going to be brilliant. So that's what I mean by going to failure. So rather than thinking I've got to do 3 sets of 10, do 4 or 5 of the first one, 4 or 5 of the second one, and make sure that the last one you do where the legs are pretty much fully stretched out, that's the hardest one. You might want to hold that to 5-10 seconds, and then you probably don't have anything left in the tank, and that's fine. So that's your bridges. And then we were working on rhomboid push-ups, so we'll move into that now. I'm going to turn this way around so hopefully you can see and drop my head. So on all fours, knees under hips, hands under shoulders, and you're dropping your chest towards the floor, keeping the elbows straight. I suppose this is where it might help if you can actually see my elbows. I'll take this top off. So it's the shoulders moving towards each other. Shoulder blades moving towards each other. So I'm sinking down, my shoulder blades come together, and I'm pushing the floor around, the shoulder blades go wide. Shoulder blades come together, shoulder blades go wide. So mobilising the shoulder blades, strengthening the muscles that connect the shoulder blades to the spine. And for you, we're just going to start towards releasing a bit of tension in the neck and the shoulders. And we didn't kind of get to where I wanted to get to today, which was with the reaching, but we'll get to that next week. So loosening off the shoulders. So just rhomboid push up there. With this one, you know, it's just a matter of seeing how much movement you get. Just stay there for a while, a couple of minutes, or however long. Getting the shoulder blades to move in and out. And then we take that into the forearm push-up. So the forearm push-up was literally that. If I bring some back to facing that way. So the cheat is to rock the hips back. So you want to bend the elbows straight back towards your knees, not going out to the side, straight back towards your knees. Your nose comes straight down between your hands, and you push the floor out. And you'll know you've got this right because it feels really hard. If you can go up and down, no problem at all. You know you're not in a great position. So elbows bending backwards, nose coming straight down. My thighs are staying vertical. So what I'm not doing is shifting my body weight back. That's easy. Body weight stays forward. And this is where it might be useful, especially on this next one, but with this one as well, to think about that flat tire breath. So combining it with the breath as you push away, which will help you start to engage your core. So it sounds a bit like this. So like we talked about last week, the breathing out against some kind of resistance, like a s or a sh, helps to engage the core, and the core and the pelvic floor are supposed to work together. So when one activates, the other activates. So it's a useful way of kind of sneakily getting the pelvic floor to get involved. You can use it for everything. When I say everything, maybe not driving down the street, but when you're doing exercises, it's actually really useful. So that's your forearm push-up, that's fine. Where did we go next? So the Kirsty's exercise, lifting the knees off the floor. Definitely want to breathe with this one. It's a prime candidate for holding your breath. Let's see if I can get the right way around. So we talked about the fact that you want to hover your knees as low down to the floor as possible. And control that action. So the very fact that I'm talking to you, you know that I'm breathing. For you, I want you to try and get your exhale to coincide with the lift. So it's going to be an inhale and then a release. Inhale. And release. You definitely want to be breathing all the way through that one because it is such a strong core exercise. If you're not breathing, you will be bearing down. So breathe out, use the breath, which will help you, like I said, engage the pelvic floor. Then we added on, when I was there, the foot lift. So if it was me, I'd probably do 5 just knee lifts, and then I'd take my 5th knee lift, hold the legs off the floor, and then picking up 1 foot at a time. Still with the breath. Again, I'm talking to you so you know I'm breathing, and then switching legs, hold for 3, for 2, for 1, foot comes down, and then the knees lower. The main thing about all of this stuff is how much control you've got over it. So you're not flinging your body around, you're not dropping out of it and landing like an elephant. It's all about the control. So again, in terms of numbers, sets, reps, etc., it depends how much time you've got. Something is better than nothing. It's that simple. So the last one, we hold the knees up, we pick up 1 foot, 3, 2, 1, the other foot, 3, 2, 1, and maybe we lower the knees, and then we go again. Hover the knees, 3, 2, 1, right foot, 3, 2, 1, left foot, 3, 2, 1, and then lower the knees. And just out of interest, seeing as we're here, I'm hoping you can see that I've got that curve of my lower back, that I'm not lifting in that rounded shape. So I'm not here, I am here. The only way I can describe that is twerking. So if in doubt, stick your ass out is the key to this work at the moment for you. Right, so let's add on to that. So we've got the bridges, we've got the rhomboid push-up, etc. Let's come into a 90-90. Well, actually, let's come into a shin box. So shin box, one shin forms the vertical, one shin forms the horizontal, and then we'll do the lifts that we were doing before. So chest over thigh, hand either side of the knee, chest stays lifted, and you're taking your chest forward, not your chin. No chin forward, chest forward. So as you do that, there should be a stretch into the underside of the glute, and then no hands, no hands. Use the knee pushing down to lift you back up, right? So you can use the hands on the way down to control you, and then no hands or tented fingers, your choice. As you get stronger, you come all the way over, maybe prayer position with the hands, just getting them out of the way. It doesn't have to be a prayer position. And if you're feeling frisky, you can go arms out, which makes it slightly more challenging. But for you to start with, just get your hands out of the way and make sure you're pushing down with the knee to bring you back up. You'll know you're great, right? Because it's hard work, right? So however many on that one. I'm just getting the legs into it's a hip mobilizer, and then we're stretching as well. So same thing, maybe 10 the fingers either side, chest lifted, so you're taking the chest forward. In other words, I'm trying to keep my back flat and still see I've got the curve. What I'm not doing is kind of just collapsing over. That would be the easy thing to do. So chest stays nice and tall, reaching the chest forward, and then pushing down in the leg to come back up. So without hands, and cross them across your chest, or 10 the fingers, whichever, push the floor away to bring you back up. Pushing down with the leg. Make sure you breathe. And for this one, I would breathe on the way back up. If you want to use the shush breath, or at least just an out breath on the way back up. Let me do one more on this side. And release. And then just because you're already kind of in this awareness or aware of this exercise, you windscreen wipers then. So hands come behind to tent or to kickstand you. Feet hip distance apart or thereabouts, and then we letting the legs come over to one side. So there'll be a tendency to roll the hip. If you notice this hip has come with the leg, you want to see if you can sit that hip bone down or sit bone down towards the floor. So you're trying to get the legs to do the work rather than the whole pelvis rolling. So if the whole pelvis goes, you're not getting any rotation into the hip joint. It's not that it's wrong. It just depends what you want to get out of it. So I'm trying to keep my sit bones down as much as I can. And then you can play with sort of distance apart. So you can go a little bit wider with the legs, which will look slightly different. Takes it more to a 90-90. Or you can be quite narrow with the legs. And depending on how far away they are as well, so you can have your feet further away, which again looks and feels different, more to the point. And you can go super wide as well. And eventually, you hopefully get to the point where you don't need your hands again. So we can do it without the hands and let the legs come across. And you might find that there's a certain position where that's easier, like it's about there for me. That's easier for me without hands to do and stay relatively upright. But as any of them, you want to play with foot and how far away your feet are, because it's all valuable in terms of what your hips are up to. Right, so I'm going to draw a line under that one there, because I just don't want you to have to think like you're doing tons. So that's kind of like if you like, that's your morning kind of thing that we were talking about. And then we'll do the next one.